Today, Joe Biden thinks it is very hilarious that he is ruining the country and the administration's cruel attempt to push farmers toward green energy, even if it means food shortages. We've got all that and more coming up, and it all starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. Happy Monday. I am Sarah Gonzalez, and I've got a full table today, and that always makes me a very happy lady. We've got Jaco Booyens, BlazeTV contributor and host of The Bottom Line. We've got Eric July, BlazeTV contributor and host of For Cannon's Sake. He is Young Rippa59 on Twitter. And we have, of course, back in studio, Elijah Schaffer, host of Slightly Offensive, which you can find here on BlazeTV as well as on the YouTubes. So make sure that you are following all of these gentlemen here. Guys, it's been an interesting couple of days. The administration is taking a lot of heat on kind of all sides here. I want to start with Joe Biden, who attended the White House Correspondents Dinner, which is, it's so annoying to me that they even have this dinner. Like, it just seems like they should have an adversarial relationship, right? Like, the White House correspondents who are pushing the administration for answers on things shouldn't have as friendly a relationship as they seem to have. It makes me very uncomfortable. But Joe Biden got up there. I don't know what they pumped him full of. It seemed to be doing the trick fairly well when you are, of course, half dead. But Joe Biden got up there and thought it would be a good time to poke fun at his low approval rating. Let's watch that.
And a special thanks to the 42% of you who actually applauded. I'm really excited to be here tonight with the only group of Americans with a lower approval rating than I have.
It's so funny that Americans don't like me. That's so funny. But that wasn't even the worst. That wasn't the worst part, because it's like, look, the presidents always get up there and they always joke around and banter, and you know, it's just this cute little thing that they do because they're all elitists and they think that they're better than everyone else. But I think the biggest blunder was Trevor Noah, who hosted this dinner. So that's how you know it was insufferable. Trevor Noah, who got up and was talking about Joe Biden making everything more expensive and worse. And just the laughter coming from Joe Biden really says it all. Watch.
You know, I think ever since you've come into office, things are really looking up. You know, gas is up, rent is up, food is up, everything. No, it really has been a tough first year for you, Mr. President.
I get it. You can't turn around and stomp off home, but that really does not seem to be a reasonable reaction from Joe. I feel like he could have handled it a little better if he had his wits about him at all. Gentlemen.
Yeah, look, Trevor, it's so funny. We got some South Africans doing well. I hope I'm one of them. Elon's doing well. And then you got Trevor, who normally does not do well, who's also South African. So I don't really favor Trevor Noah at all. But in that situation, there's a lot of truth to the joke, as there normally would be in a roasting. There's a lot of truth.
Yeah.
You know?
You got to hand it to him. He did
poke
fun equally.
And he roasted him. And so I tip my hat to Trevor for that moment, that particular time to do it. But as a president in that hour, again, this guy has no idea that whatever a president of this country does echoes around the world. That thing will be on loop. And it's funny. And so Americans should take offense to that. Yeah, it's funny to them. I want you to know that it's very funny to them.
I mean, that was over the top laughing.
Yeah, well,
and he was clapping and over the top laughing.
Look, it's like if someone makes jokes of your kids and you laugh, something's inherently wrong. Mm-hmm. If we see the flag being burnt, see the things this man saw in Kenosha and all over, and people poke fun at it, something's wrong with the individual. There's certain things in life that are foundational that you should just not touch. Mm. And this president shouldn't laugh about what he's done, but that's how he takes his position. It's a joke.
Yeah, of course, Eric, these are elitists who really don't care that inflation is up and gas prices are up and all of that, because it doesn't affect them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm less tripping about laughing at yourself. I'm all for that. I mean, I do it every day, certainly on my show. However, what that signifies is that they are aware. Like, they're certainly self-aware. Often we give them credit for being the opposite. but they're very aware of like the actual reality, which to me makes it even more insane. Some of the policies that they tend to advocate when you are so aware what you are doing is utterly destroying the country it is that you claim to certainly rule over. And that's the part that's frustrating about it all. When you mention those things, yeah, of course they're true. It's funny, but there are a lot of people that are suffering or are about to suffer due to something like that. So I don't want to be the guy with this, stick up his behind or something like that won't laugh at a joke, but there's actual ramifications to what's taking place and the policies it is that they're advocating. I'm not going to put it all on Biden and act like previous administrations had nothing to do with it, because they absolutely had something to do with this in terms of their spending effort. But to be as aware of your own individual failure as you are, and to still come out like, yeah, I know it sucks, my approval ratings suck, but hey, we're not going to feel the brunt of the actual consequences. Right. Y'all are. Right. So, which is all that kind of group laughing and massive circle jerk that it actually is. That's all it is. They can laugh because it don't hurt.
Right. Exactly. You know what I mean? Right. It doesn't touch them.
Right. So I would argue that it's not even he's not laughing at his own expense. He's laughing at everyone else's expense.
Well, yeah, and this is an extremely similar situation. If you guys remember back, I think it was 2020, or it might have been before, when Ricky Gervais hosted the Academy Awards, and he made some jokes at the elite's expense, specifically about Epstein. And when everyone got uncomfortable, they laughed, and he was like, "What? He's your guys' friend. He's not mine. Like, it's your guys'." And everyone looked so uncomfortable in the crowd, because the truth is we don't have the logs, we don't have all the videos. We know that there's hundreds of hours of blackmail out there, but that's not in our interest, because the people were guilty, and they looked like, yeah, shoot, we are involved. And just like the Hollywood elite is involved in the sex scandals and the cults, the correspondents and the media in the news, besides maybe being a part of that as well, definitely are planning the collapse of our country. They are all in on it. And unfortunately, it pays to work for the regime. They get these good jobs, $400,000, $500,000 for a few hours a week on MSNBC. They laugh, they say what they're told to say. And as we've seen in the last couple of years, they admit, we're trying to control the minds of the people. Don't let a good crisis go to waste. We'll probably talk about in a little bit. They kind of let out that they're in on it. And when they're all sitting in that room, just think about this. Even as Biden was able to point out, everyone is vaccinated, everybody's boosted. It doesn't matter what network they work for. They're all lockstep in line with whatever we want them to do. So don't trust the Fox News. Don't trust the CNN, split. They're all working for a larger corporate message. They all do as they're told. And the sad part of the Trevor Noah, to not give him credit, I love how he ends the joke with yeah, it's been a rough year for you. As if it's like, oh, Mr. President.
Poor guy.
It's just, you've really gotten beaten down. It's like, as if you're not the problem. I could do that marriage problems too, with fights, mess up and piss off my wife and be like, baby, are you going to feel sorry for me? I kind of screwed up a little bit. I'm not feeling too good myself.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to go well for you.
No, it doesn't work in my world, but it works in the fake world that's his presidency.
Yeah, I love that you pointed that out, because I hadn't even considered that part of it. It was just like, wait, why are you using that to get sympaty for him? He doesn't deserve it. Elijah, you just...
He's a victim. He's always a victim.
He's the victim here.
They are all victims, always. They'll play the victim card at the drop.
They love it.
The race card and the victim card.
It gives them, oppression points. They love it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Elijah, you just alluded to it a minute ago. Let me get to this Biden official who just said yesterday that the global food shortage crisis, look, they're not going to let a crisis go to waste. Okay, so what they're actually going to do is they will make sure that it pushes farmers towards relying on more green energy. Here is U.S. Agency for International Development Chief Samantha Power. Watch.
Fertilizer shortages are real now because Russia is a big exporter of fertilizer. And even though fertilizer is not sanctioned, less fertilizer is coming out of Russia. As a result, we're working with countries to think about natural solutions like manure and compost. And this may hasten transitions that would have been in the interest of farmers to make eventually anyway. So never let a crisis go to waste, but we really do need this financial support from the Congress to be able to meet emergency food needs so we don't see the cascading, deadly effects of Russia's war extend into Africa and beyond.
These people, how are these real people? They don't they just go. They don't even care. They're like, yeah, never let a crisis go to waste.
Why they have a teleprompter? I was gonna say, we now know why they have teleprompters, because they've been really getting up there with our gas. I'm going, no wonder why they have to have a script, because when they're off script, they really tell us probably a little more than they're supposed to.
Who was
Say
it?
the
Mark
quiet parts out
Ruffalo.
loud.
Mark Ruffalo,
Yeah.
who called Ukraine a gift. What's
Yes.
going on in
The
Ukraine a
war's
gift? It's like
people dying is
there
a
are
gift.
people dying.
That was Ruffalo. I was on that show with you.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's just
Like,
like,
what are the-
how are these people real?
And then just at the end there, I love that. It was throw in Africa. You can see the script writers go, no, you got to spice that. Just throw in Africa. Where? Just put it in there. In Africa. We don't want it to go to
Just
Africa.
a
We need
keyword.
all the buzzword, all the keywords. You got to hit them all because, look, they're creating the crisis. This food crisis, which is going to be real. Glenn ran a show on it, and it's a manufactured food crisis. We're talking about food processing plants burning down all of a sudden. We talk about farmers that used to take subsidies. If you were a farmer and took subsidies, sorry, but they're calling. The Paid Piper is playing again. Pay the Piper. Destroying their crops, not just in the U.S., but across. It's a manufactured crisis. Sure, manure does come out of Russia, not exclusively. Right? And so blame everything Russia, but it's a manufactured crisis. And I said this a year ago. The next thing is food. It's not COVID. When you start controlling who eats and who doesn't eat, it's going to make COVID look like a little puppy, like a little kitten.
Yeah.
It's going to get real.
Well, that sounds optimistic.
Look, it is manufactured, but I guess what angers me so much about us talking about this, definitely as we have all the roundtable discussions about this, it seems that the solution is so easy, but often, I guess that's what the academics are certainly paid to do, is to make it more complex than what it actually is. I mean, the great Thomas Sowell talks about that all the time. Actually, you need an intellectual to try to make such a simple thing complex. When we recognize the government and its not just utter failure, how it actually aids in a lot of what we have right now. It's what they use as their vehicle to implement all of this ridiculousness. You talked about COVID. You talk about what happens right now, and they're like, well, okay, yeah, we had all this stuff that we were trying to put these farmers on, relying on green energy or other green ways to certainly do things, even if it means other people suffer because of it. This is all done with this massive entity known as the state at the helm of it. But for whatever reason, it's like I'm sitting here, when I talk about it, everybody acts like I'm being the unrealistic one as these retards, excuse me, for lack of better terms, sit up here and run your damn country into the ground. I'm the one that's crazy, right?
No,
the anarchist libertarian is the one that's crazy. That would never happen. That's so unrealistic. How will we exist? What about the roads? And I'm like, you are allowing people that are the dumbest folks in the world to control your lives, and you act like the solution's right there. I'm giving it. Pretend it's this cup, everybody. This cup is the solution. Bam! I've given it to you. You can see it. It's tangible. You can even see it. You can feel it. And instead of taking the freaking layup, all we sit up here and do is like, wow, how do we solve such a crisis that the government caused? I don't know. Maybe get them out of the way. Maybe that's the solution. Finally, Republicans and conservatives that watch this show, I think some guy we got to put in there to try to implement some cool 4D, 7D chess backgammon type of game to try to get us out of this, when the solution is as simple as ever. It's as simple as now as it was when I was right about the whole COVID situation, as it was when I was right about Obama and everything it is that he implemented. I'm tired of screaming my head off, Sarah, about the solution, but nobody listens to us.
Eric,
nobody.
I know it's your turn to rant. You got to rant, okay, real quick. But let me tell you this. It's on both sides. You said something earlier. It's on both sides.
Yes.
The elite class.
Still screaming.
No, scream. The elite class and the Republican
Don't scream at
side.
him. He didn't do it.
No, I like
Taking
this.
it out of
I
the
like this. I like, I'm African American.
Yeah, that's true. He gets me because he's African American.
I get him.
Exactly.
We're as black as can be. So here's the deal. The problem is, though, and I know these people personally, okay, that are deep in the conservative movement. Their lives, their personal lives, Sarah, their kids' lives are not being affected. Even in the Republican Party, they're making more money now than they made when Trump was in office. Yeah. They're raising more money on the Save America movement than when they raised a lot of these organizations that are friends of ours. Yeah. It doesn't affect them, which change will not happen. They're not desperate enough. That's true. I don't trust politicians for nothing. They're all crooked. They're all of them. I mean, they take backhand deals and they don't care about the American people. What say you, sir?
Well, like Eric was saying, I mean, when you look at the idea that you have this previous UN ambassador, which we know how good they're doing in the world, being put into place, they essentially take people who sucked at a job that was bad. They fail at it. And when it says served from 2013 to 2017, AKA didn't accomplish anything. So they take people who have accomplished the least amount possible in the worst position that does nothing, and then they elevate them into positions of power, and then sit back and go, why is our country so messed up? And it's like, well, when you're hiring teachers, for a lack of better words, out of the special needs class, you wonder why nobody's learning anything. And you know what? There is classes and there are environments for special needs people. That's why we call them special. But it's not running our country. And we somehow switched the files and we got the wrong set of candidates. And we are literally choosing people who are intentionally messing things up. And I have to say, it's by design. Because, and I always say the idea that they fail upwards, they always have that vertical failure because it's the rewarding of being more robotic. They are the blueprint for transhumanism, because they don't need, Neuralink and whatever embedded in their brains. These people are already like the lowest of low of IQ. These people are proof that evolution might be real, because we found the trans species between chimpanzees and humans, and it's the global elites currently running our government and in the media. So I give up. I finally believe in evolution today. I believe in it.
That was one of the greatest segments, I'm telling you. I'm loving this.
I'm going to have to tell, I'm sure my producer is already on it, I'm going to clip that one for Eric. He's going to need that one later.
I'm just a white guy sitting here with a couple African Americans. With my brothers. Not a big deal.
All right, let's go ahead and take a break, and we'll be back with more. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Patriot Mobile. So, look, DHS, we talk about it on the program. They've created a department designed to combat what they call disinformation. You got to wonder what is going to be next. Free speech is obviously under attack all the time. That is why we are proud to support Patriot Mobile. They are America's only Christian conservative wireless provider. They are, let me tell you, they are as passionate about free speech and your constitutional rights as you are. By the way, they have the same nationwide coverage as all the major carriers, so you're getting the same service that you would. Plus, you have peace of mind that your money is combating the left's attempts to silence you. Patriot Mobile they've got plans to fit any budget. And they share your values and support organizations that are fighting for the things that you believe in. We've got to partner with our friends. We've got to stick together in today's economy. You can do that by going to patriotmobile.com/news. You can get free activation with the offer code NEWS. By the way, if you're a veteran or first responder, you're going to get even more discounts on top of their reasonably priced plans. Go do that at patriotmobile.com/news. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi headlined a congressional delegation to Ukraine and Poland over the weekend. This was a surprise visit, a lovely little surprise visit. It's always good when you know that your actual head of state cannot function and can't attend, and your second in command would probably just laugh her whole way through the meeting. And so you're like, you know what? Our A-team that we're sending is the drunk Nancy Pelosi, who is about 10 million years old. That's the best we got, and that's what we're sending. She tweeted about this. She said, our distinguished congressional delegation came to Poland to send an unmistakable message to the world that America stands firmly with our NATO allies in our support for Ukraine. As the Russian invasion of Ukraine rages on, our delegation continues our meetings with U.S. senior officials to be further briefed on the humanitarian tragedy caused by Putin. I bring this up at the same time that Adam Kinzinger, representative, he calls himself a Republican. I tend to disagree. Adam Kinzinger, who introduced a resolution yesterday to use American armed forces in Ukraine if Russia fights with chemical, biological, or nuclear weapons. Things are going great, guys.
That picture before the wonderful Stephen pulls it off, that picture said it all to me. This is called preparation. This is called desensitizing America to the fact that this administration are going to send your sons and daughters into a war. And we said that when he took office. They must go to war. They must talk race. They must go to war. Mm-hmm. So this is how you say, we're with them, and you start bleeding it in and start getting the Americans ready.
Do you remember when everyone used to say that Trump was going to cause World War III? Mm-hmm. Interesting.
I believe we might even be training their troops in Germany. I mean, that's alleged, but I mean, that's
Really?
that's what I'm hearing. At least the Kremlin is saying, and why they're calling this, officially a national war against the West. Because I mean, when you look at this is so insane. The first time that Ukraine was quote unquote invaded, and I just had a debate about this, that technically Ukraine wasn't invaded because Ukraine's been in a civil war since at least 2014, and with the Minsk II agreement, they had a ceasefire, and one of the predications of the ceasefire was that there would be no foreign military equipment near the front line, specifically near the Donbass, the eastern region, right? And then you have Donetsk, and then you have Lugansk, and you have the two cities. Now, people don't even realize that those two regions in the Donbass are already cut off between Eastern Russian influence and Western Ukraine, that what we call the Ukraine now, or NATO influence. And, I don't think people kind of understand that even in the eastern districts, they voted for Putin as their leader, by the way, in 2020. Most of them have Russian passports. And so this is a civil war that doesn't involve us. This is a problem. And people in the debate, the guy kept trying to get me to defend Putin invading. And I go, I'm not going to defend him invading. I'm just saying this is not our battle. These are certain people of Eastern origin that have had a long-standing issue. And his one stance was like, well, it's been a country since 1991. And I'm like, bro, you're older than the country. So this is not something this is not France being invaded that has been around for thousands of years. This is a country that has had a problem with its borders and its identity for quite some time. And the fact that we are sending in the military aid, that we are giving weapons, asking for $33 billion while you look at the streets of Philadelphia, you look at the streets of Los Angeles, they look like war zones in and of themselves.
Arkansas.
It's bloody insane to think that you would send ourselves, our sons, our daughters, even our own tax dollars for a conflict, which, by the way, I'll just say, it's horrible it's happening. I don't like the way the world works. But it's like when I see today the mainstream media saying, oh, well, the Western nations don't want any part in this and they're not willing to punish Putin. I'm sorry. I'm done with America playing world police and deciding that every single battle is our battle when we don't give a single crap about what happens in our own country. We just talked about it. We don't even have food. Can't even find meat on the shelves. Can't even afford gas. And you want to send money to another country to get involved in another war when we barely got out of Afghanistan, and poorly at that?
Yeah, I agree. It's
absolutely
infuriating.
And the Balkans, by the way, has been at war for hundreds of years with one another. That's a war-riddled zone. There's not a single person living in the Balkans that has not firsthand experienced war, because it is a civil matter. It's their matter. Deal with it. Let NATO deal with it, if anyone else, not us. We have no business. We can send support for people who are actually kids being trafficked and women, but we're about to get involved in a war with our troops.
Yeah. Eric, are you going to yell at me again?
No, I'm not going to yell at you.
He yelled at me. He yelled at you.
Well, I mean, but I guess what would piss me off is the $33 billion that they're going to pay. It's just funny how all of this, Elon Musk, $44 billion, and they're talking about how he could have ended world hunger, and they just gave, $11 billion less, that's it, to Ukraine, to aid them in whatever efforts it is that they're trying to fight against. Now, look, I will absolutely admit, and I concede that America certainly had a lot of, definitely in 2014, had a lot to do with the turmoil that happens right now in Ukraine. But at what point do you actually recognize that our involvement, and it's not obviously just with Ukraine, but all across the world, has been to our own detriment, even in the name of terrorism? And the great Ron Paul has talked about that historically, how even that policy has done nothing but breed more people that despise this country enough to do something crazy to your country. I mean, it's something you see, I don't know, your brother blown up, by some bomb that is marked, or in some case by either America or their allies. You kind of start to feel some kind of way. It's easy for us to say no otherwise. Now, again, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Nonetheless, we need to be up out of there. But we look at all the issues that happen in this country, even pertaining to like gun rights, which is what frustrates me so much, where you got Ukraine having this policy of, well, we need to have more of their people armed, and we're also sending them weapons. When you have people in this country right now who are criminalized for in certain pockets of this country right now, still to this day, and a lot of Republicans aided in that as well, that are criminalized for just simply having possession of a freaking weapon. And that type of stuff really pisses me off, because it really goes to show what politics looks like and how that inconsistency can be so blatant to the American people, and they think absolutely nothing of it. When it's $33 billion, you'll have some people champion it like, we're about to go save America, or even the idea that your kids are going to be sent over to this war. That hypes them up. And then you look at the rights that have been infringed upon within this territory, within these borders, by the same institution, the federal government, and we think nothing of it. That really pisses me off.
Eric, we made a presentation, and I can't say too much of this. We made a presentation recently to two governors, you can figure out who, who happens to border another country. You can figure out who those governors are. And we brought technology to them, real technology. I'm talking about technology that can detect tunnels under the ground like we've never seen. I'm talking about a dust that can track cartel members in trafficking, and they shut it down. There's just no funding for it. There's no funding to secure our border, but we're going to go secure their border. I'm talking about, I'm in the meetings, how we try, and it's just shut down. It's just like, nope, no thank you. And it's small money. We're talking $8 million to secure a Texas, technology for Texas border. $33 billion. You know why? Whoever funds a war benefits from the war.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Whoever funds a war. Whoever doesn't fund the war suffer. The American people will suffer. The Ukrainian people will suffer. But Joe Biden, George Soros, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, all the ones funding war, it's almost like a race. Who gets to fund this one?
Raytheon. You always see that immediately. You always see that name. It's like, we need to order material from Raytheon. And I got to remind people of this. I don't even know if this is on the show later, but I've had, as the war started, a friend of mine in Odessa was explaining to me how he was really nervous to, I think we talked about even on here, really nervous to even talk about what his thoughts were because of the government runs like a tyrannical regime. You can be punished. And people thought that was crazy. And I've even been told just recently that was incorrect. But we saw the AP News just yesterday, I believe, released the videotape that now in Ukraine, like if you make any post, social media post critical of Zelenskyy, against the war, in pro-Russia, you'll be arrested. And some of them are actually even being shot. And they took AP with them, the soldiers. In one city, they had arrested already 400 people for making inappropriate social media posts. So you're trying to tell me that we're running for a country that's the bastion of hope and of free speech, and people are cheering this on, right? Oh, it's war. And that's what you see what they want to do here in this country, is like they want to push that. That's what they love. Ukraine is not some bastion of Western ideals. It's a very corrupt nation. And if you can go to jail, if you can be killed even in some cases, which they wouldn't report, but I'm hearing, these are alleged reports, but still, I mean, if you're seeing this on film, what is not on film, I always say, if they always show, a certain limit.
Yes.
This is not a country that I want to align with. This is not a country that I think that we can pick a side. They need to figure their own stuff, their own matters out. But man, even if they won the war, what kind of government are we propping up?
Right. Americans live in this weird, privileged world where they think that in any sort of global conflict that there must be a good guy and a bad guy, right? Yeah. Like they can't fathom the idea that like maybe just both sides are not good.
Sometimes Al Capone's successor is the one hunting Al Capone.
Yeah.
Right? So here you have the bookie of the world, is really what they've been. That country's been the bookie. Mm-hmm. They've been a money laundering, money washing entity, which is why the Bidens are up in there and so many others, right? Not the good guy. Again, not the people of the Ukraine, the citizens of the Ukraine, the ones suffering. The leadership. Heck, you have an actor that they made a TV show for the guy to play the president, to get him ready to, again, prepare the country. Say, this is our guy we picked, and then he runs for presidency, and now he's the president, and to them he's a hero. That country has been involved in crazy stuff.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, let's talk about Rachel Levine talking about the value of gender-affirming care for our kids. We'll be right back.
God.
I can't. Janney Elementary School in Washington, D.C., apparently, according to documents that were obtained by the Daily Caller, they held a virtual assembly with an anti-racist educator for students. Now, they sent a anti-racism fight club presentation home. Students received a fist book with information on combating racism at home and how to deal with racism from loved ones. It said, even though they love you and are older than you, they can be wrong. And students also learned that racial prejudice is present against both white and black students, but racial prejudice only harms black students because black people don't have any power over white people. Eric, we don't want anyone white-splaining.
This approach that like it's, again, it goes back to the previous segment. It's more so the adults have this warped view of how they view things. And then they want to push that on the kids. And this race thing was actually something that I believe certainly was first. It's like, for example, the concept of representation or diversity in media. You say they talk about how important certainly that is. But children don't give a crap about any of you guys have children, so you all know that. That's not anything that they focus on. That's a learned trait. That is something that is a learned trait. Yeah, it's taught to them to have that position, because generally you can go on any playground, black kids, white kids, whatever, they just play with it. They don't care about anything. They may have people that they're more or less compatible with, but in a sense of like race, they don't really care. Even you actually, you probably have the experience that when they have to get older, you have to explain to them like, okay, well, even in terms of like gender, like you don't play with girls that same kind of way. You have to kind of explain it because they don't care. So I hate this idea where they act like it's so inherent. When it's like, no, that's bull crap that you teach them. I say all this all the time. In the age where we came up in the 90s, for the most part, we were over this hump. It's just weird how we reversed. We went backwards. That to me is just so bizarre.
Because it's a very effective weapon. It's a very effective weapon, and they will pull it out whenever. It's like saying, "Hey, when do we run our bread and butter play?" Just pull it out.
It's worked for decades.
It's forever, man. It's worked forever.
And just one quick note. I know it's hard for Americans to view it this way, but a lot of countries, particularly like in South America, that have like different races, including black people, that don't have these same problems, is because it's simply not a part of their culture. It's a learned trait.
No question.
They won't admit that, but it's certainly a learned trait.
Critical race theory not being taught in schools, the left says.
Well, I think with all this being said in mind is that the idea they have to target kids totally takes down their entire message that they've said two things with race and with this sexuality stuff. Obviously, we've had the I'm born this way, and then the other side is that nobody is born racist, right? It's learned. Racism is learned, and so we have to teach them anti-racism. Well, if it's learned, then why don't you just create a society that's more just, and why don't you start acting like as adults and giving an example to children by the way you live and not being a racist person. And also, racism in of itself isn't a problem. And this idea of sexuality, well, if people are just born gay and they're born lesbians and stuff, then why is it we've got to educate children? I mean, why would they not, just like all sex, we don't need to go to a 4-year-old and explain to them. Usually a kid asks you and says, Dad, why I heard about this, or what is this? We kind of give them that chance of exploration. It's part of the human spirit. And that might be younger for a kid than another. But it does make me so upset because genuinely for myself, I realized that like I said, being the 90s or even before, we got blessed with the fact that I was able to grow up and figure out who I was without everyone telling me who I should be or what was possible. And I think as a kid, man, when you're learning colors and you're learning new things, the fact that you're being told about these complicated sexual things before you've gone through puberty and about race before you've really had full cognitive development, I mean, we're looking for a disaster.
All right, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Creating a disaster.
Well, because before the prefrontal cortex, we don't allow kids to drink alcohol. The main argument.
All right, don't forget to go wherever you find your audio podcasts, subscribe, rate, and review The News and Why It Matters. Here's what I want you to do, guys. I'm pushing really hard to get a new song, a new intro song. And everyone, they come on the program, and Elijah was making fun of me.
I always do, but that's not just for the song. I just like to make fun of you.
That's true.
Elijah and Doyle, they
because
like to
everyone's just like, this song does not fit you at all.
No.
I'm aware. So what I want you to do is go over, and when you leave that 5-star review, help me tell management here that we got to get rid of the song. We got to get a better song in. I'm depending on you guys, okay? My fate is in your hands. Also, if you leave us a review, you may see it read live on air, like the one today from Gadget Neck, who said 5 stars. I love you guys. I don't hand out that phrase often or lightly, but I truly do. I never miss an episode because each one has left me feeling more positive about the future, which isn't easy these days. I enjoy the discussions and respect the opinions of each person in every episode. Keep up the great work. That's a lot of people in episodes.
Super fan.
I love it.
And just like with that song, Biden might laugh when he's getting roasted, but she's not laughing. And so you actually got to go help her.
Yep.
You're not going to laugh at your own roast.
No, please.
Treat her show better than Biden treats our country.
Yeah,
Help her out.
please.